Have you ever been in a relationship where something felt off, not betrayal, not a screaming fight? Just one sentence. A sentence that sank into your chest like a stone dropping into water. You heard it, you felt it, but you ignored it. You forced a smile, changed the subject, told yourself, "I'm overthinking." That was the first mistake. Because some sentences aren't just words, they are signals. They are alarms. They are her way of telling you respect has died, that the flame has gone out. And if you ignore them, if you try to justify them, you're the one turning into ashes. Many men have fallen into this trap. They hear a line, feel uneasy, but cling to excuses. She's just tired. She didn't mean it. Tomorrow will be different. They bury themselves in sweet lies. They explain on her behalf, while day after day their self-respect drains away. And in the end, the only thing left to hold on to is bitterness. Stoicism teaches a cold truth: don't argue with reality. Don't beg at a closed door. When the signal is clear, a real man doesn't ask for another chance. He doesn't bargain with contempt. He walks away quietly, decisively, as someone who knows his value is greater than any single relationship. Today, I'll give you 7 sentences. Women may drop 7 red flags that weak men ignore. Hear them once, and you must understand: no debate, no pleading, no excuses. Because if you stand still when you see fire, don't wonder why you're the first to burn. 1. I don't need a man. That line sounds bold, like a neon sign flashing in New York at midnight. Loud, repetitive, dramatic. On the surface, it looks like independence. But anyone truly independent knows this independence doesn't need a sign. A genuinely strong woman doesn't have to repeat that phrase. Just like truly wealthy people don't stand in the street shouting, "I'm rich, I'm rich." The paradox is this: the more often she says, "I don't need a man," the more she reveals an unmet need. It doesn't ring of strength, it rings of defense. Not "I'm fine, but I'm afraid." Not "I'm free, but I'm locked in." Think back, ever been at a party, music pumping, conversation flowing, and in the corner someone drops, "I don't need a man," like tossing a rock into a pond. The room goes quiet for half a second. Then she says it again and again, as if afraid it might be forgotten. Meanwhile, her phone lights up with a stream of dramatic texts from some not official but never disappears guy. Funny, isn't it? But it shows the truth. Declarations of independence are shouted loudest when inside is trembling the most. Psychology calls it a defense mechanism. Build walls so no one sees the weakness. But for men, especially Stoic men, you must be clear. If you step past that wall thinking, "I'll prove to her that men aren't so bad," congratulations, you just walked into a role she scripted for you. You're no longer yourself. You're just proof for someone else's narrative. And in that play, you always lose. True independence is different. It's quiet, heavy, like a great tree in the forest, no labels, no slogans, but everything bends around it. In contrast, "I don't need a man" sounds like a hollow drum, loud but empty. The difference is obvious. A woman with healthy boundaries will say specifics: "I need Saturday afternoons to myself. I won't tolerate being yelled at. I'll pause if I feel disrespected." Those are boundaries, practical, respectful. But "I don't need a man" is like a cafe hanging a sign. We don't need customers. Would you walk in? Naive men have tried. They walked in only to find themselves living like job applicants, constantly proving pleasing, waiting to be chosen. And each day, their self-respect fell away. Marcus Aurelius said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." If her words don't reflect the truth of men's value in a relationship, you are not obliged to argue or correct them. Your job is not to fix. Your job is to walk away calmly. Think of it this way: "I don't need a man" is like a t-shirt that says, "I don't need Wi-Fi." Sounds cool until the router goes out. Stable people don't need slogans. Insecure people sell them. And you, instead of buying that shirt, buy a solid pair of shoes so you can walk out of the room. When you hear it, don't argue, don't plead, don't prove. Your silence is the sharpest answer. You're not here to break down someone's walls. You're here to build your own house. Whoever wants in will walk through the front door. Whoever doesn't, let them go. 2. A real man would. This is the kind of sentence that sounds like encouragement, but is actually the fastest way to crush your frame. A real man would pay every bill. A real man would never disagree. A real man would accept me completely, flaws, chaos, and all. Listen carefully. They're not complimenting you. They're manipulating you. In social psychology, this is a classic trick labeling. They throw a label on you, call it real man, under their definition, and then say, if you don't do this, you're not a man. It's the same trick used on kids to eat vegetables. Adults eat veggies. If you don't eat them, you're still a child. And you shoved cilantro into your mouth. Now you're 30, but they're still playing the same game, only swapping eat your veggies with pay for everything, or endure silently. Take Alex, a friend of mine. He dated a woman who said at every dinner, a real man would never let a woman pay. Out of courtesy, Alex covered once, twice, 3 times. But one day, he looked at his wallet and realized he wasn't a boyfriend anymore. He was a smiling ATM. A walking bank, no interest rates. That's the trap. This line doesn't attack your behavior, it attacks your identity. It doesn't say, I'd like you to do this for me. It says, if you don't, you're not a man. And the moment you fall for it, you comply, not because you want to, but because you're afraid of being exiled from your own species. That's emotional blackmail, extortion through fear of contempt. Picture it like this, an invisible rope around your neck. Every time you give in, it tightens a little. You don't die instantly, but breathing gets harder. Until one day you wonder why life feels suffocating inside your own home. Epictetus once said, if you wish to be a writer, write. If you wish to be a man, stand firm. Being a man isn't about how many bills you pay, how many objections you swallow, or how much disrespect you endure. Being a man means you stand firm in your principles. So if a sentence starts with a real man would, treat it like spam email. Don't open, don't click, just delete. Because a real man doesn't let himself be defined by someone else's mouth. 3. My ex was the problem. This line sounds harmless, but it's a hidden indictment. He was toxic. He didn't value me. He was controlling. He never changed. You listen. You sympathize. You think she just met the wrong guy? I'll be different. And that's when you walk straight into the next role. But be clear, if someone has 3, 5, 10 relationships, and in every one, the man was the problem, what's the common denominator? It's not that all those men held a secret council to torment her. The only constant is her. Psychology calls this blame-shifting, pushing responsibility outward to avoid facing one's own truth. It preserves the image of the innocent victim. The issue. When you date someone like this, you're basically signing up to be the next bad guy in her story. I remember drinking one night with a friend. His ex had 5 relationships before him. Every single man was described as toxic, selfish, controlling, unfaithful, cold. My friend felt confident, I'm not like them. I'll show her what a good man really is. 6 months later, he sat across from me, lips tight, repeating the exact line those 5 men had heard before. She says, I don't appreciate her. The pattern was flawless. That's the trap when a woman says, my ex was the problem. You immediately lift yourself up, I'm different. But that thought alone makes you the perfect candidate for the next act. Because in blame shifting, the script never changes, only the actors rotate. And when the curtain falls, you'll be written into her history as just another man who wasn't good enough. Think of it this way. If you take a boat out to sea and it sinks again and again, maybe the problem isn't the ocean. Maybe the boat is leaking. But instead of looking at the hole, she points outward. It's the waves. It's the wind. It's the captain. And if you take the wheel, congratulations, you're the next casualty of a hole she refuses to see. Here's the irony. Instead of walking away, many men see this as their chance to play hero. I'll be the exception. I'll prove not all men are like that. Sound familiar? But the moment you set out to prove, you've already become evidence. And before long, you too will be judged, dismissed, and discarded. Stoicism teaches this. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." If someone hasn't learned that lesson, then in their world, every failure is someone else's fault. Every wound is someone else's doing. And you cannot learn it for them. You cannot carry responsibility for their growth. So when you hear "my ex was the problem," take it as a warning sign. It's not just about her past, it's describing your future. I knew a guy, David, who dated a gorgeous woman who often said, "I just like a little drama. It keeps things exciting." Sweet, right? 6 months later, David had lived through an endless loop. Breakup, get back, tears, kisses, silence, repeat, 3 times a month. By the end, he didn't know if he was in love or trapped in a Netflix series called How to Break a Man Without Lifting a Finger. He wasn't her boyfriend anymore. He was an extra in her show. And the audience, her own insecurity. The clearest metaphor, holding a small flame in your hand, thinking it'll keep you warm. The longer you hold it, the more you burn. Drama is never little. It's fire that devours everything, starting with your shirt, then your skin, then your soul. It sounds harsh, but reality is harsher. Women who admit they like drama are confessing something bigger. Peace does not exist in my dictionary. Seneca wrote, "Peace is found in reason, not in chaos." And if you want a healthy relationship, remember, peace can't grow on soil where the owner keeps sowing fire. So when you hear, "I like a little drama," don't mistake it for charm. Don't call it personality. Take it for what it really is, a warning. 4. If you loved me, you would... This is the most ruthless sentence a woman can drop. It sounds sweet, but it's a dagger wrapped in silk. Because the moment love becomes a negotiation, it's no longer love. It's a contract of control. If you loved me, you would drop your friends. If you loved me, you would never look at another woman. If you loved me, you would do exactly what I say, without question. At first, you think these are small asks. 1 concession, 2 concessions, you tell yourself it's just proving your love. But every yes cuts away another piece of your freedom. And eventually, you're just a shadow in the corner, no friends, no principles, no backbone. Psychologists call this conditional love. It doesn't come from connection, but from control. And the most dangerous part, men don't fall into this trap because they're stupid. They fall because they truly love. They want to keep her, they want to prove themselves, and in that intoxication, they'll pay any price. Take Matthew, a guy I knew. He loved a woman so much, he accepted every demand, ditched his friends, abandoned his hobbies, even changed his style just to hear her say, "Good, that's better." 6 months later, he looked in the mirror and realized he wasn't himself anymore. All that was left was an empty man living in a golden cage. Beautiful, polished, but still a cage. That metaphor says it all, the golden cage. At first, you think it means you're special, cherished. But soon you realize you're just a display bird, wings clipped, sky gone. Real love never needs conditions to survive. It doesn't say if, it only says because. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "He who lives in harmony with himself lives in harmony with the universe." A man in harmony with himself doesn't need to trade away his soul to keep someone else. Because if you have to lose yourself to keep love, you've already lost everything. Here's the brutal truth. Millions of men have surrendered their reason step by step until they've become slaves just because they heard this sentence. They thought it was proof of love. In reality, it was their certificate of servitude. So if one day you hear, "If you loved me, you would..." So many times, you can't breathe, don't explain, don't argue, don't attempt another pointless test. Understand that true love never bargains, and a true man never sells his soul for a compliment. 5. Why can't you be more like... This is one of the most brutal sentences a man can ever hear from a woman. It isn't just a question, it's a verdict. Why can't you be more like my brother? Why can't you be like my friend's husband? Why can't you be like my ex? As on the surface, it seems harmless, but every time it's spoken, it's a blade slicing directly into your self-respect. The hidden message is clear: you're not enough. You're not the standard. You're just a failed draft compared to someone else. In social psychology, this is called the comparison trap. It's a way of lowering you, of forcing you into a race against an imaginary standard you can never actually meet. No matter how much you try, they can always invent a higher bar, taller, richer, better, more of a real man. You'll chase forever and never arrive. Take Chris, for example. He dated a woman who constantly brought up her ex like a ghost at the table. He once took me to Paris. He always remembered anniversaries. He was a better listener. Instead of calling it out, Chris tried to match it. He saved money, forced himself to remember every detail, swallowed his pride. And yet, it was never enough. Because the point was never that she wanted Chris to upgrade. The point was keeping Chris in a permanent state of less than. That's manipulation. Because once you accept being compared, you've lost your frame. You're no longer living from within yourself, you're acting out someone else's script. And the harder you try, the further you drift from who you are. A man who loses his frame is like a tiger with its fangs pulled, still looks fierce but powerless. Think of it like a treadmill. You're sweating, gasping, running at full speed. But the scenery never changes. Your effort becomes nothing more than a performance for someone else. And at the end, they still tell you, you're not enough. Now some will argue, but isn't comparison sometimes encouragement? The difference is obvious. A woman who respects you will speak in specifics: "I need more of your attention," or "I'd like us to spend more time together." That's an invitation to growth. But why can't you be like... is not an invitation, it's rejection. It doesn't lift you forward, it pushes you down. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "A man should be upright, not kept upright." A true man stands tall on his own spine, not by leaning into someone else's shadow. And if she only sees you through the lens of her ex or another man, then the truth is she doesn't see you at all. So when you hear, "Why can't you be more like..." don't argue, don't prove, don't beg. Because no one wins a contest where the referee keeps changing the rules. You only have two choices: keep losing yourself piece by piece or walk away to keep yourself whole. And a stoic man will always choose the second. 6. That's just how I am, deal with it. It sounds bold. Like a slogan on a t-shirt: "This is me. Take it or leave it." But don't be fooled. This isn't a declaration of strength. It's an admission of weakness. I refuse to change, even if my behavior destroys this relationship. In psychology, this is the opposite of a growth mindset. It's a fixed mindset, a refusal to take responsibility. People dress it up as strong personality. In truth, it's just stubbornness wearing a mask. The danger is simple. This phrase shuts down dialogue. You point out gently, sometimes you get too angry, it hurts both of us. The answer: that's just how I am. Deal with it. meaning the doors to improvement are locked. The message is clear: if you stay, you must accept all the poison that comes with me. Take Daniel. He dated a stunning woman who had one toxic habit. Whenever she was upset, she disappeared for 3 days. No calls, no texts. When he tried to talk, she shrugged. That's just how I am. At first, Daniel thought, maybe I just need patience. But soon he realized he was living in constant anxiety, always waiting for the next vanishing act. He wasn't dating a woman, he was dating a storm on a schedule. And her magic phrase, "that's just how I am," was nothing more than a license for the storm to keep raging without consequence. The metaphor is simple. Imagine a driver swerving onto the sidewalk, nearly killing people, then yelling, "That's how I drive." Deal with it. If you keep riding in that car, don't be surprised when it flips and breaks your neck. Personality isn't sacred when it wrecks everything around it. "That's just who I am" sounds strong until that self leaves a trail of ruin. Stoicism demands responsibility. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." Adults don't dodge accountability by hiding behind, "That's my personality." Adults look at their behavior, see how it damages relationships, and have the discipline to change. So when you hear, "That's just how I am," deal with it. Don't romanticize it as individuality. See it for what it is, a warning sign. It doesn't mean strength of character. It means no growth here. And you don't need to debate, diagnose, or play unpaid therapist. A wise man doesn't spend his life dealing with it. He walks away because he knows he deserves someone who chooses to grow, not a child who throws tantrums in adult language. 7. All men are the same. At first, it sounds harmless, like a throwaway complaint that men are all the same. But in truth, it's a verdict. And you, without saying a word, without even having the chance to show who you are, have already been sentenced alongside an entire gender. This phrase doesn't attack you directly, but it drowns you in prejudice. It tells you, "I don't see you. I only see the label you carry, man." And under that label, all are cheaters, all are liars, all are irresponsible. No exceptions. In social psychology, this is called overgeneralization, extreme generalization. Someone goes through a few bad experiences, then projects them onto an entire group to ease their personal pain. It makes sense to them, but in reality, it's a refusal of responsibility. If all men are trash, then she isn't accountable for choosing poorly. The whole world was wrong from the start. The examples are endless. Take Jason, a friend of mine. He dated a woman who, whenever he slipped even a little, forgetting a text, showing up 10 minutes late, would snap. Typical. All men are the same. At first, Jason tried to fight back. "No, I'm different." He tried to prove it with flowers, with constant texts, with extra effort to stand out. The result? The harder he tried, the deeper he sank, because she never saw his individual effort. In her eyes, Jason was just more evidence to confirm her prejudice. Picture it like walking into a courtroom where you haven't spoken, haven't shown evidence. But the judge bangs the gavel, "Guilty," because everyone before you was guilty. What can you say? Nothing. Every defense only makes you look more foolish. The bitter irony is that many men hear this line and think it's their chance. She believes all men are bad. I'll be the exception. I'll prove her wrong. And so they rush in as the hero, only to end up as Exhibit BCD, fresh proof to reinforce her worldview. Because once someone has decided all men are the same, they will always twist reality to keep that belief alive. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If someone is mistaken, instruct them kindly and show them the truth. But if they will not listen, blame yourself, not them." In other words, you can try to show her a different reality. But if she refuses to see the problem isn't you, it's the belief she clings to. So when you hear all men are the same, understand you're not facing an individual. You're facing an ideology, a tinted lens over her entire vision. And you don't need to exhaust yourself proving you're an exception. You don't need to stand trial in a courtroom where the sentence is already written. The wise man walks away, because dignity never requires begging a biased judge for acquittal. Conclusion. And now you see it clearly, those F7 sentences aren't harmless. They're not jokes. They're alarms. They're signals that the fire is out and the room is filling with smoke. If you keep standing there trying to breathe deeper, telling yourself, "I'll get used to it," then you'll be the first to suffocate. Not because she's too strong, but because you're too weak to face the truth. A Stoic man doesn't beg, doesn't argue, doesn't explain. He walks away in silence, in calm and dignity. Because he knows love can be lost, but honor must never be. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." A true man does not let himself be defined by a sentence, a game, or an emotional trap. Antismo 7 red flags, 7 sentences. Hear them once, and you should know exactly what to do. No hesitation, no self-deception, no more sleepless nights justifying contempt. Because the truth is, the fire is already burning. And the only question left is, will you walk out or sit there until you turn to ash?